I was so nervous. I actually spoke to my mom about this because, like, Mom, like, what if she makes a move on me and I'm not prepared?
It makes me nervous how much your mom knew about us.
I'm Italian.
Before I had even, like, experienced it.
But I'm Italian. Like, I'm bound
well,
to...
yeah, I mean, now I talk to your mom about everything.
Yeah. Welcome back to the currently unnamed podcast. We have yet to decide on the name. Granted, we filmed the first one yesterday, so...
Haven't had a lot of time.
No. So, mind you, the people listening, if they listen to the first one, to them, it's 2 days apart. This is Tuesday, Thursday. But that's still not a lot of time to discuss. So, yeah, I do have some topics prepared.
Should I be nervous?
No. Part of it was I wanted to go back in a conversation we had a couple days ago about, like, the advancement of technology. And remember how we were discussing, like, how cinema is bound to go VR,
mm-hmm.
and how one day we think it'll be like a goggle situation and whatnot.
Yeah.
So I got to thinking, and that day you and I had also discussed how typically the porn industry is what advances technology.
Information that you provided.
Yes, yeah, I provided that. So for anyone that doesn't know, home movies were originally just for pornography. And when things like VHSs were first coming about, I'm not sure if there was a technology before that, I could be wrong, but when that sort of stuff was first coming out, it was pretty much seen as just for porn. And the company that released the first Dirty Dancing, they specialized in VHS releases. I don't think for porn, I think it was just VHS releases, but they were kind of seen as like a lower tier company because they focused on straight to DVD, or I think they helped movies go to DVD, or sorry, VHS. They helped in that process, so they were seen as a lower tier, and then they decided to expand their portfolio. They worked on Dirty Dancing, blah blah blah. So long story short, porn changes the world. So it advances technology. It advanced home movies. First VHSs, then DVDs, and then the internet happened. So I would say porn probably helped things like YouTube come about, just because people wanted instant access to these videos. And probably it influenced why YouTube's free, because, like, the porn industry is free online, right, for the most part. So, but anyway, so I'm fairly certain that VR will just continue to be advanced through the porn industry, because I know that is a space that exists. Now, that being said, here's the actual, like, topic I wanted to ask you. And this is not, in case my family is listening to this, wow, I look really large in this shirt. For anyone listening to the audio only, I'm wearing a shirt 3 sizes too big, and it makes me look like a picnic table. Yeah, so for anyone listening, this is not because I'm curious about where Jessie feels about this. This is just strictly out of curiosity. Do you think that watching VR porn is cheating?
Cheating on your significant other?
Yes.
No.
Okay. Huh. Really?
Do you?
A little.
Really?
Yeah. I'd say watching porn is one thing, but experiencing it is another.
I mean, I think if that's the length you're going to, you should probably have some conversations with your significant other. I mean, hopefully when you're in a relationship, you don't need that.
Right. One sec, you have a hair going.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah, I don't know. I
mean, I'd still rather my significant other do that than actually be with another person.
That's fair. I just... So let me ask this twofold then. So would experiencing pre-recorded VR porn versus I had heard through, remember those cut videos where they do like the fear pong and stuff?
Yeah.
I remember they had a gay couple on, and one of them mentioned that there was a type of VR where it was like a cam model and then there was a toy attached to both people. Now that is like an instant, like, that's legitimate cyber sex, I
Right.
would say. Would you deem that as cheating versus regular, like, pre-recorded VR?
More so, yeah. I don't know if, like, cheating is the word I would assign to that. Like, I don't think I'd be happy if I found out that that was happening, because obviously then they're searching for something else.
Right.
I don't know.
If it were me, I would deem it as cheating. I would have an issue with that side of it. I'd say more so if it was, I don't know if there's VR. I really don't know if there's VR porn for women. I don't understand.
I have not looked into it.
I need you to do your due diligence for me. But if I were a woman and I found out that my significant other was using that, I would probably feel a little scorned.
Yeah.
A little like, oh, that's too much. You know what I mean? But odd topic to start the podcast with. I'm sure we may or may not have lost or gained listeners based on whatever the hell I decide to title this, but yeah, I would definitely say that I'd consider it cheating, but
well, we'll be sure to steer clear of that.
yeah, just make sure you know VR porn for you.
Just regular straight porn.
Just regular straight porn. Yeah, I'm sure my parents will love to hear that. Do you have anything to say to my parents after that one?
Kidding.
Another topic I found, these are topics that I found on my phone from a little while ago. At what point, now that we're done talking about adult things, at what point did you realize that you were an adult? Like, when did you realize you were growing up?
I still don't feel like an adult.
Oh, no?
No.
Huh.
I mean, I think adult pressures kind of set in by the end of high school. But I don't know. I mean, I didn't really follow the typical path that people take.
Fair. Yeah, I didn't either.
I mean, being on my own when I first went to university, I guess made me feel more grown up.
Right.
Not so much in a good way.
Right. Well, do you mind if I give a little bit of context there?
No, it's fine.
So you went away to university. You were there for a month before you left?
Yeah, about a month and a half. Yeah.
Yeah, so you went away to university, were living away from home, and then you moved back, which I don't necessarily see as a negative. I personally don't, because university is a very expensive thing that if you're going to stick through it and you're really miserable,
Yeah.
what's the point?
I mean, I went into it not even knowing what I wanted to do.
Right.
And I think it's really hard to stay focused when you have no end goal.
Right, especially because you're taking these courses that may or may not amount to anything.
Exactly.
Right? So
yeah.
that was similar to me. I didn't go to post-secondary for 5 years after high school. And then when I did, I decided to go back for film. I went online, and I might have to bleep that out just because I don't want them coming at me for money again. But but I had the issue of I was really enjoying what I was doing, but it was all stuff that I had already been learning online on my own previously. So I thought, I'm paying a lot monthly for this, and they're sending me like Cinecom or whatever, like YouTubers that I was already following.
Right.
I follow them, and yet somehow the names are escaping me. But like they'd even send me some Corridor Digital stuff. I'm like, dude,
You
I've
to
been
pay for
watching
that.
this since high school. I
Yeah.
don't need to watch this and then get graded on how I duplicate someone else's work. So I dropped out, and then they hit me up for money after, and I'm like, okay, well, screw you. It was a whole. I just got that resolved last summer, so that was like a 2-year ordeal of trying to get that resolved.
Yeah, well, my second university, it was 4 years after I dropped out that they came after me.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So Jessie went to another university after,
For a week.
For 1 week, and they came at you 4 years later for how much money?
It was a few grand.
Yeah.
I think it was 30% of my tuition that they wanted.
Yeah.
Because I didn't drop out like 2 days earlier.
Yeah. See, that's the kind of thing that,
I attended one class.
Oh, jeez. That's the kind of thing, though, like, I understand they're an establishment and they've got rules and timelines and whatnot, but a couple days or like that early on, and then why wait 4 years?
Well, the main issue I had is that when I did go through it, I put through an appeal and everything,
Mm-hmm.
and they told me it was approved.
Oh.
When they came back at me, I told them that. And they said, well, we don't have any record of that. So then when I actually contacted the school, they're like, well, we don't have any record that you owe money.
Jeez. Well, when I was in school, I had the issue of, I think I had until November, whatever, to drop out before I wouldn't be penalized for the next term. Because my terms were only like 3 months because it was a much more compressed program.
Mm-hmm.
I had until November, whatever, to I almost said divorce, to drop out of the program. And I what was it? I got like a letter or an email saying your tuition rates are going to go up again. So I started in April of that year, and I dropped out in December of that year. When I started in April, it was like $400 a month. By the time I dropped out, it was $800 a month. And it was bound to keep getting higher and higher. And, you know, I needed new textbooks after each course or after each term. So every 3 months I'm buying new textbooks, and every 3 months, oh, by the way, you need new equipment. And by the way, you need new software. And by the way, you need new that. I'm like, okay, I'm getting nothing out of this. So I got the letter in November that in December it would go up. So I reached out to my advisor and said, hey, how do I either drop out or put a hold on my program? I got the response saying, to put a hold on your program, it's $200 a month. I'm like, $200 a month to do what?
To not go to school.
Right. So he said you can either hold it for $200 a month or drop out. So I asked to drop out, and it was like on a Thursday afternoon or something, or a Wednesday. And then, oh, well, I'm not hearing back from him for a day. And, oh, well, you know, he's giving me all these options back and forth, and I keep repeating, I want to drop out. Well, it turned out that I was on the cusp of the deadline. Mm-hmm. So by the time that he finished, like, putting everything together, I owed money. And at first, it was, oh, you owe your tuition for this term. Which would have been, I think they said $1,500, which still didn't add up because 800 times 3 is not $1,500. And then I was back and forth between my advisor, their finance, my advisor, their finance, and we went back and forth so many times, and eventually they said, okay, you owe us like $2,000-$3,000. I'm like, no, I'm not paying it. I called student services there, and they said, go to your bank. They were like, it's a pre-authorized debit transaction. Just get a new debit card, and we can't do anything with it. So I got the new debit card, and then I emailed the school. I let them know I was doing this. I emailed my advisor and the director of finance there, and I said, you know what, here's what I'm doing. Here's what I was advised to do by such person. Mm-hmm. I think I put the president of the school on the email and one other person, I can't remember who, and I'm definitely going to have to bleep out their name, given the amount of information that I'm giving. And I might take this school off my LinkedIn, just in case. But yeah, so I let them know, here's what I'm doing, here's who advised me to do it, and they did not get back to me. This was in December. Did not get back to me. Then in February, I get a letter in the mail. Oh, we're sending it to collections. So I call director of finance. She hung up on me. Call her back. She hung up on me. And then she's screening my calls. All because I was asking her, can I speak to your boss? I don't have a boss. I'm the head honcho here. I don't have a boss. I'm like, okay, well, you do. Everybody has a boss. Unless you run the school, you have a boss. She kept denying it. Finally got through to the right person. So she was lying the whole time. And then that person was like, oh, the amount that they're telling you is wrong. You only owe like $700. It's like, great. I'm still not paying the $700. She was, if you can find evidence of you trying to drop out ahead of the date, we can well, I'll just waive the fee. And I was like, well, I'm sorry, but it was all through phone calls. Like I don't have, I can give you dates that I called, but I can't give you anything in writing, because I'll leave his name out. Just did it all over the phone. She was, I'll put a hold on this for now. We won't send it to collections, and then we'll discuss it later. And then 2 months down the road, I hear nothing. I get another letter that it's going to collections. Send another email, and I was like, you know what? I'm not paying it. Yada, yada, yada. We go back and forth. They ignore me again. 8 months later, I get another thing. 4 months after that, I get another. And it was always like back and forth arguing, and then they'd let it go. And then summertime of last year, I was at someone's shop, the auto shop, and I had just that morning threatened legal action. I was like, I'm done. I'm done arguing. At this point, I'd rather pay thousands of dollars to a lawyer than actually deal with you ever again. Like, if I get another letter, if this goes to collections, I'm not only coming after you for my legal fees, I'm coming after you for harassment, yada, yada, yada. I'm done. I'm not playing any games. Within a couple hours of sending that, I get an email saying, so we met with the board of directors and we've decided out of the kindness of our hearts, we've decided to waive your fee. It took everything in me not to just write back, fuck you, because it was such a condescending letter.
Are they supposed to send you letters saying that it's going to collections before it does?
Yeah, because you're supposed to be given the opportunity to pay it ahead of time.
That would have been nice. I just got a call from a collections agency.
Well, what doesn't make sense about yours is they don't even have a record of you owing them money.
No.
The next time they call you, let me answer.
Well, they haven't called me in like a year.
That's good.
It's been a long time.
They might have just, because they technically sell the debt, that collections agency probably went back to that university and was like, oh, she's ignoring us, our contract's up. And then the university probably was like, who the fuck is this? They don't owe us anything. That's probably why you haven't gotten anything.
I was so confused when I got
I
that call,
bet.
like 4 years later. I was like, what?
Was that when we first started hanging out? Because I remember there was an issue.
Yeah.
I definitely remember talking about it probably a week or two before we started dating, actually.
That was like closer to the end of when they were bugging me.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I understand. Yeah, when it comes to post-secondary, I look to the countries that it's free, and I wonder, and because their economies, from what I understand, and I could be completely ignorant to this, but I understand their economies are doing better than ours. I just wonder, because Canada's a socialist country to an extent, we are, right?
Yeah.
Technically speaking, yeah. So if we are the socialist country, why can't we look to other countries that do it well? Granted, most of those countries, their minimum wage is higher. They help people get jobs, yada, yada, yada. I don't necessarily care too much about the minimum wage aspect, but just knowing that they pay higher, their economy's better, their rate of unemployment's lower. And then there's Canada. And I feel like we live by the stereotype of we apologize for everything, and I feel like we don't get a lot done.
Yeah.
Like, I look to what's going on in Ontario right now with the teachers and the Ontario government, and I feel as if there's always conflict, but never really any resolution. And there's always the arbitrary apology, but never really anything done about it. I wish education was either free or subsidized more. Granted, the education I decided to take, I couldn't get any sort of help from the government because it was a private program, which your sister actually warned me about 2 months before I actually entered the program. It was the day I met you. She warned me. I looked into it. It's expensive and you can't get OSAP. I still blindly went into it. But I just wonder if there's more that the country could do. And I'm not trying to talk from like the snowflake millennial of, well, I just want everyone taken care of. Yeah. Yeah. I just think that if the economy is going to say, we want degrees to give you jobs, well, then help people get degrees.
Yeah, because I mean, how many jobs can you get now without a degree or a diploma of some kind?
Right. My last one I to an extent was very lucky. I've made a good point of making relationships at every job that I've had, and that blossomed into my last job, which I had a good, comfortable career there for a number of years, almost 3 years. And it, they looked past the fact that I didn't have a degree or any sort of diploma. And I appreciate that, because now when I've been on job interviews since then, that's like the number one question I've gotten is, why don't you have a degree? Would you be willing to go back? And I've said yes with the intention that I would be willing to if it was something I wanted to do.
Right.
I personally, I enjoy the idea of working for myself. I enjoy having the flexible hours to do stuff like this. So if I can continue to do it, I'm going to continue to do it. But the fact that the gateway for so many people is the diploma, it kind of, it hinders your ability to get quality candidates, because if you're only looking at this diploma, there's no practicality in a marketing diploma or marketing degree.
No, and the issue is that a piece of paper saying you went to school doesn't really show what kind of worker you're going to be. It doesn't give you the actual experience that you need to move forward.
Right.
Like, you don't know what kind of employee you're getting just because they have a degree.
Exactly. I understand like the logic of, oh, well, it shows that they did something and they completed it. Well, what about being at a job for however many years?
Yeah. I mean, I know people who completed university being drunk every single year that they were there. Like, I mean, it's, yeah, you got through it, but it doesn't mean that they worked hard.
Right. And that's just it, is there should almost be like an aptitude test for jobs rather than necessarily looking for degrees.
Yeah.
I think if I were to ever hire someone, I wouldn't care so much about the degree, but I would put together some sort of aptitude test.
Right, yeah.
And I've had to take aptitude tests, oddly enough, for the video store I worked at.
Right.
But that helped weed out a lot of negative candidates. Mind you, I failed the test the first time I took it.
I just don't see how that much math is required.
Oh man, that test was ridiculous. So for this video store job, it was pretty much the level of a high school exam completed in 40 minutes as the aptitude test. And every section was timed, and you couldn't go beyond that time. So let's say there's 4 sections, 5 sections. Each section is 10 minutes long or however long. Some sections were 5 minutes long. And once that timer goes off, you have to move on. There's no continuing unless you finish the next section early, and then you can go back. But there was an entire section on math, which, in what year did I get the job? 2014. In 2014, to not have access to a calculator on my phone, in the store, or on the computers, that doesn't make sense. So the fact that I needed to know how to do algebra, long division, multiplication, which kind of, it makes sense, and then what are exponents called? Like, what type of math is it? Is it just exponents?
I don't know. It's been a long time.
So yeah, exponents, square root kind of stuff. And I failed mostly on the math portion. I am good at math, but having 10 minutes to do 4 or 5 long division questions and 5 multiplication questions, blah, 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 without a calculator, and I haven't done that since elementary school.
I feel like after, like, what, 4th grade? You don't even do long division.
Right.
Like,
so at that point in time, I hadn't done it since, in 10 years, I hadn't done it, and they're asking me to do it again. So I failed the first time mostly because of that. I reapplied to the job. I really wanted to work at this place. I think I applied the first time in 2012. Oh, you know what? I technically applied there 3 times. So I failed the test the second time. The third time I got the job. But the first time I applied, there was this manager who I had heard horror stories of when I finally got the job. She had since been fired. So she interviewed me, and the interview consisted of, it was less than 5 minutes. And I remember she said to me, "How's your family life?" Which I've since learned through working a corporate job that that's not a question you can ask in an interview. She said, "How's your family life? What's your relationship like with your parents?" I was like, "Great. I have a great relationship with my parents." And then the next question was something to the effect of, "Where do you see yourself in 5 years?" And every job interview I've ever had, except for the last job that I had, I used to always answer with retired. I always wanted to be financially retired, crazy young. So I probably answered with that. And she said, "Okay, that's it," and walks away from me. Doesn't, like, 2 questions, 5 minutes, walks away. I'm probably mid-sentence, and she walked away. So then I called back a few days later just to see, okay, what's going on, if I am being considered still.
right.
And I got her. So at that job, you had to answer with your first name. So she answered the phone and then said, "Yeah, so I spoke to so-and-so. She's not interested in you as a candidate." Spoke to so-and-so? Do you mean spoke to yourself? Like, that's just odd. And then hung up on me. But I got the job years later. And I think ultimately it was that job and my last job in marketing that really formed my current work ethic, because both elevated me in ways that no other job did, which is weird that a retail position, I feel like, really, really elevated me. But that job was a lot of fun for a long time, but it taught me a lot. Even just how to interview. So I was doing interviews there. And there was one of the questions in the interview was, we had these little cards that had questions that we had to ask people. And one of the questions was, who would you consider one of your role models? And it's funny because we always accepted interviews regardless of if we were hiring or not, because we always kept those people on file just in case.
Mm-hmm.
And there was this one day, this guy came in, really, really rocked just the introduction portion of himself when he told me he was looking for a job.
Mm-hmm.
And so I gave him an application. I was going to call him for an interview. In my mind, he was already hired. And then this other guy came in, and in my mind, he was not hired, because we had this dumb rule at that store that we couldn't have facial hair. And this guy had a big beard, and he came in actually dressed very similar to how I am now. And I'm thinking, as much as this guy seems like a really nice guy, I don't necessarily know if he'll fit their corporate, like, ideas. But I I still brought both of them in for an interview. Well, the guy that I liked showed up 15 minutes late and with a horrible attitude. We go to do our interview, and rather than sitting down, this guy's leaning on the wall, one-word answers, kind of like giving me a bit of attitude based on the questions, and then eventually goes, so how much do you get paid around here? Okay, well, maybe this isn't the candidate for me. I feel like
that's someone who's trying not to get at the job.
Yeah, it's almost like he could have been, now that I think about it, he could have been on like EI and has to prove that he's getting job interviews. Fair. But then the other guy came in and he rocked the interview. He ended up eventually getting the job. But I remember the question came up of who would you say is your role model? And I was sold, you're going to laugh at me when I say this, but I was sold the second he said Spider-Man.
I can't say that surprises me.
No, but his answer astounded me. His answer was that Peter Parker, being this masked vigilante at 15, 16 years old, proves that anyone can do anything regardless of their age, race, or gender. And I was just blown away, and I'll never forget. He was like, it could be anyone under that mask. It could be a man, it could be a woman, it could be a black kid, it could be a white kid. Doesn't matter. It could be anyone under that mask. And he chose to do the right thing with his abilities, and the whole great power, great responsibility thing, as much as it's a cliche, he lives by that every day. And I was so blown away by someone who was able to take a superhero and apply it to real life so effortlessly. You don't find that surprising at all?
No.
No.
I don't.
No. This is the room that I first tried to hold your hand in. And you pulled away.
I didn't know what you were doing. Make me sound horrible.
So, I always say last year as if we've only been dating for a few months. A couple Halloweens ago, we had tried to do a horror photo a week. I think that was the intention, but we only did 2 or 3. And we did like a Stranger Things style shoot down here. Mm-hmm. I'll throw the picture up for the people on the video podcast. But it was more, I'll throw the video actually rather than picture. It showed us as a couple, and I was like, oh yeah, I get to put my arm around her. And I think I noticed your fingertip that night, that you're missing the tip. So I then tried to hold your hand as I'm like, oh, what's going on
you were
here?
Looking at it for quite a while.
Yeah, that was a sign. You know how girls stare at the lips?
I remember too, after you took the photo, you were sitting there with your arms still like behind me for a solid like 15 minutes just talking, and I was like, okay, I didn't know what it meant. But...
Oh yeah. Yeah, I just casually put my arm around random women.
I don't know. When I first met you, all I heard about was all these girls that you were friends with.
Okay, I thought you were going to make it sound like I've dated a lot of girls.
No, you have a lot of friends that are girls.
Right.
And so I didn't know if you were that friendly with all of them, or...
That's a valid question. It's a valid question. That night you also asked me how many people I've dated, and I, technically speaking, I haven't dated, like, been boyfriend, girlfriend with a lot of the girls in my life. But there were situationships along the way.
Yeah. Quite a few.
I would not say quite a few. I would say a handful that have left a very deep impact on me as a man. Is that a good way to say it?
Yeah.
But positive and negative. Some of them taught me a lot about myself. Some of them taught me that they showed me what I really don't want. Yeah, so I could understand why you wouldn't be sure. But the hand-holding should have been a giveaway. I
didn't know how touchy-feely you were, or how flirty you were with your people. I didn't know.
Yeah, do you remember when you brought up that haunted house?
Yeah. I don't know how I didn't clue in at that point.
So, we're in the car, we're on our way to go thrift shopping, that day I happened to also buy you a locket that you were eyeing at a
Value Village.
Yeah, so we went to a Value Village. And Jesse's eyeing this locket. I was like, oh, I'll buy it for you then. I'll buy it for you. Like, oh my gosh, like, oh, it's just like, it's to thank you for coming shopping with me. What an idiot I am. Like, as if that's gonna woo her in any way.
I enjoyed it.
Yeah, well, you wear it from time to time.
Yeah, I do.
But we left one Value Village, we're on our way to the other, and you're talking about this haunted house, and you were saying, oh, this one person that asked me to go, I don't want to go with them, because
because we had been arguing.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to hold her hand.
Yeah. Jesse's like, yeah, you've got to hold hands with people when you're at haunted houses. What was my response?
I'll go with you.
Yeah, immediately, within seconds of her saying the hand holding. Yet that wasn't a clue in to me wanting to date her.
Well, to be fair, you led me to believe that you really liked horror movies and scary things. That was a lie. But as far as I was aware, you just really were excited to go to a haunted house.
Oh yeah, totally. What gave you the impression I loved horror movies?
You asked me to watch them all the time. You bought them to watch them with me.
Yeah, I did. I now own the complete Conjuring series as an attempt to date Jessie.
You bought one that I already had.
You weren't sure, and I was like,
you give me 5 minutes to look for it.
Yeah, I ordered it on Amazon as we were talking. And it was before I had Prime, so I paid for expedited delivery because I wanted to hang out with you that week. I'm like, I'm not waiting. I want that week.
That was the night that you said you left your hand out on my bed, right?
Yeah, oh man, when you said that we were watching the movies in your room, I was so nervous. I actually spoke to my mom about this because, like, Mom, like, what if she makes a move on me and I'm not prepared?
It makes me nervous how much your mom knew about us.
I'm Italian.
Before I had even, like, experienced it.
But I'm Italian. Like, I'm bound to...
Well, yeah, I mean, now I talk to your mom about everything.
Yeah. But yeah, I talked to my mom about it. I'm like, Mom, I don't know what to do. She makes a move and I'm not prepared for it. What if I make a mistake? And my mom goes, honestly, I don't think you have anything to worry about. And she's like, she's probably not going to make a move. So that whole night, we're sitting in your bed. I'm like rigid. And then I just had my hand just casually in the center of the bed, hoping that you got scared enough to take my hand, forgetting the fact that you've already seen all of these movies.
Yeah. We were literally watching them so that you would come to the nun with
you. Yeah, which again was me really. You treated me that night too.
I used scene voice.
But yeah, the Conjuring movies are what ultimately brought us together because you had said something about wanting to see the nun in the D box, the moving seats, and I was like, I'll go with you in a heartbeat.
I really want to see that movie.
I've been wanting to go. Like, oh yeah, like this Catholic boy really wants to see something about a possessed nun. Yeah, definitely my kind of movie.
The guy who won't even watch a ghost movie in his own house.
No, because that's opening a gateway or something. I'm okay if it's at your house.
What are you gonna do if you ever get a role in a movie that's about ghosts? What if you had to touch a Ouija board for it?
Oh no. I didn't think about that. Oh no. When I had my meeting with that agent, she asked me, do you have any limitations? She said, would you be okay playing a crackhead or a gay man or any of these lists of things? I'm like, yeah, I've got no issue with it. I didn't even think about being in a horror movie.
You're like, yeah, no, I don't fuck with the spiritual shit.
Oh, man. What if they make me touch a Ouija board? Mind you, I haven't heard back from them yet, so I'm assuming they're not taking me. But I do plan to go, because the agent gave me a list of the directory
you
of
could very
how to do
easily
it
still get a
myself.
role through a different agency or representing yourself.
Yeah, she did tell me that a big part of
wear gloves.
Exactly. Yeah, but wear gloves that you make that are designed to look like my hands.
Right.
Yeah.
And then we can fill them with sage.
Yes. Yes. We'll just make prosthetic hands that I hold off camera and I move that shit around.
I think it's gonna look really natural.
I agree. Yeah. Yeah, so she did give me the list of how to self-represent if they don't sign me. But on the plus side, she didn't say that they wouldn't sign me because of a lack of talent, because she liked my cold read. She was very honest in the fact that she didn't like that I didn't have any formal training, despite the fact that there's a theater background. Theater and film are completely different. So she said, go get some training, and then it's a different story. Also, if we have too many people that look like you. But she made it clear it wasn't a talent issue. It was just a lack of experience issue. So
you know what I think would be great?
What?
If we made a horror movie, but so that you don't have to touch anything. You know those little mini hands that people use?
We'll shoot on a macro lens with the mini hands.
But no, I think everything in the movie should be normal except for every time there's a close-up of a hand. We use
It's
the
the
little
mini
baby hands.
Yeah. Well, I've been wanting to make a horror movie with you for a long time, especially because you had talked about how there's no real good alien movies.
It's very rare that there are scary alien movies.
Yeah, because they're kind of predictable. So I've been wanting for a little while to do it. I just need the budget. I have a concept in mind that I haven't talked too much to you about, just because it's so loose in my head. I like to stitch things together first. But I'd love to if I had the budget. So brand deals, please. Buy ad space on this podcast. I'm gonna start advertising myself on here. What were you about to say? Sorry, interrupted. Oh,
I don't know.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I would love to make horror movies with you. That'd be great.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah, as long as there's no ghosty shit.
You're limiting us, though.
To slashers, to monster movies, to alien movies.
I would love to create my own monster. That'd be cool.
Oh, I think you'd be great at it. I just don't like the idea of you creating demons that involve me. Do it on your own time. Before you come into our home, you have to sage yourself.
I'm genuinely surprised that you weren't scared off by my Instagram before we started.
Honestly, there was a couple that was like, oh, fuck, why is she gonna be so weird? That specifically the one where you've got the cross burned into your face.
Yeah, that was a vampire one.
Yeah, I didn't like that one.
Oh.
I liked it on Instagram.
Yeah,
I
you
didn't like it with my heart.
Right. You lied to me.
Exactly. That's what every man's got to do to seal the deal.
Well, I got the idea from someone else, so blame them.
Yeah.
Looked cool though, didn't it?
Yeah, it did. The microphone just died, so we're gonna cut to that audio.
Oh, okay.
It's odd that it died. I hope that it saved all of that audio. Otherwise, we're gonna go with entirely this. But yeah, it did look really cool. You totally. Oh, I feel so weird not being able to hear my voice anymore. It did look really cool. It was interesting you grayed out your skin. Yeah, I'm gonna throw the photo up here on the video, but yeah, it looked very real, which I think is why I didn't appreciate the cross burned into your face.
I liked doing things that I didn't see a lot of.
Right. Didn't you just say that you got the idea from someone else?
I did, but it was I thought it looked really unique.
Oh, I see.
I hadn't seen others like that. I don't like following the trends that everyone tries, because
That's fair.
As much as you can make it your own, I just got bored with it.
That's fair. I know that you stubborn's the wrong word. But you do stand your ground with that, because you and I have even talked about how to build your brand as a makeup artist, and you've stood your ground about not wanting to follow the trends, which I can appreciate the integrity.
I mean, I think that kind of came from that I never planned to use social media
Fair.
to grow as a makeup artist. Like, I really just wanted to go into film immediately. So, like, I wasn't really interested in that kind of stuff.
Right.
I much preferred just watching, like, special features on horror movies and learning how they did stuff and, like, thinking about how I could do that kind of stuff. So,
right.
It's a little different.
Yeah. Social media is a different space, though, too, because there's a lot of special effects artists, and obviously there's got to be someone who's setting a trend, so that could very well be something that you're doing, and even we're just doing whatever it is that you want to do. But that's where someone like me struggles, because I used to, when it came to photography, I did whatever I wanted, and my Instagram was growing consistently. The second I started, like, oh, I want to do more portraits, my audience was solely like product shots or landscape. I deleted my entire portfolio, started with portraits. I struggled to grow, but it was growing consistently. But then I found that I more so just wanted to follow the trends, because that's something I lack when it comes to my own growth, is a little bit of integrity. I wouldn't say that I have the most integrity with that stuff. I don't, to me, I'm a numbers person. I like to see the metrics growing, and regardless of how I do it. So if I'm growing in a way that is following the trend, even if it's something that I'm not 100% invested in, like you and I had talked, remember when I really wanted to do boudoir stuff, which I'm still open to if there's a monetary gain to it. I don't want to, it's not something that I find like super fun or cutting edge, because everyone does it now.
Right.
If there's a monetary gain and there's a business benefit to doing it, I would do it. But I mostly wanted to because I saw the money in that. But that's something too that's difficult to really build a brand around, because there's so many people doing it.
Right.
And now there's, it's more about the models themselves. Like, the photographers do well, but the models themselves are the ones who can rake in the money.
Yeah.
Because they can start an OnlyFans account and make $1 million.
Right.
Oh man, if I was a pretty woman.
We'll have to work as a team on that one.
Exactly. I'll just take nudie photos of you and post them on the internet.
I don't know if people are actually going to want to look at that.
I'm sure they would. Watch. If this podcast blows up, you might suddenly get an influx of Instagram followers, and they might be begging
post
for
on Instagram.
They might be begging for an OnlyFans account. Well, it's been 51 minutes, so just so we're not spending too much time with lesser quality audio, I say we cut the podcast now.
Sounds good.
Thank you, listeners, whoever lasted this long in the podcast. If you want to follow us on social media, Jessie's Instagram is
Jessie Naylor.
Yep. Do you have any duplicate letters in there, or is
No.
it just Jessie? Okay. Jessie Naylor is her Instagram. Mine is, I think it's just Michael Comparoni. My TikTok, I think, is Michael Comparoni. My Twitter is Mike Comparoni. Just search my name, you'll find me. Make sure to follow us on all platforms and subscribe, and brands, hit us up. We love money. All right. See ya.